Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. It is Wednesday, the 25th of October 2023. And I think my green screen's gone wrong there in the corner. Oh, well, never mind. Hello and welcome. We're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about Peter Bowen in a moment. But before we get to the full-time Mr. Burns cosplayer, we are going to talk a little bit about Trump over the ocean. Trump over the ocean. That's what the title of this show should be, Trump over the ocean. So you probably know the news by now that Jenna Ellis, who was one of his lawyers, along with Sidney Powell, last in 2020 when he tried to overthrow the American government and overthrow the will of the people for the election that he lost. They're flipped. They're flipped like pancakes. But at around midnight last night, just as I was trying to get to sleep, the news broke that Mark Meadows has flipped as well. Now, Mark Meadows, this is slightly more interesting in a way, because Mark Meadows wasn't a lawyer that Trump can say, oh, they weren't really my lawyer. They were working for Giuliani. They weren't nothing to do with me. You can't really do that with Mark Meadows, because Mark Meadows was the chief of staff at the White House while he was president. So there's no plausible deniability here. There's no 6 degrees of separation. It is just literally the guy who was the chief of Donald Trump's staff when he was in the White House. And he's flipped. He's flipped. So in return for immunity from prosecution, he has flipped in the cases. It might be more than one, but the main one is the Washington case. Now, I know it's difficult to keep up with all of these cases that are going against Trump at the moment. There's one against Trump University. There's the E. Jean Carroll counter case that is now going ahead. Not the counter case, but there's an extra case going ahead because he defamed E. Jean Carroll after he was found guilty of sexual assault in a court of law in earlier in the year. That's going ahead in January. Then you've got the New York fraud case, which is about him overvaluing his properties to gain beneficial loans from banks and also undervaluing properties to not pay as much tax to the IRS. And then you've got the Georgia probe into his election interfering in Georgia, which is the one where it's a RICO case with 19 defendants, 4 of whom have now flipped, have pleaded guilty to the charges and have agreed to turn state evidence. So they will be testifying against Trump in his trial. It's going to be very, very difficult for him to get out of that one. Then you've got the Florida case, which is about him having classified documents in Mar-a-Lago. Apparently, he showed some classified documents to an Australian billionaire for like $1 million or something. And also, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, or whatever his name is, he got $2 billion from the Saudis for some reason. Don't know what that was about. Why would the Saudis want to give Trump's son-in-law loads of money like that? Funny. Anyway, yeah. So, and then we've also got the final one, which is probably the biggest, most important, which is that Trump mounted an insurrection against the government of the United States. He had his idiotic, moronic supporters flood the US Capitol building where the Senate and the House of Representatives is, and they tried to kill the then Vice President Mike Pence. So pretty hefty call sheet there that Trump's got against him. And you know what? If you asked me probably a week ago if I thought that he was going to go to jail, I'd probably say maybe 90-10. 90, he won't go to jail. 10, that he will. Now, it's better than 50-50. I mean, now, with Jenna Ellis flipping with, she famously used to tell people on Twitter to cry more. When people pointed out that she was, culpable for these crimes that Trump was committing, she replied, cry more. And then yesterday when she was giving her speech, she cried in court as she gave her speech. Funny that. Anyway, so yeah, Mark Meadows flipping. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. Trump is sunk. It's now got more than 50%. I would say it's now for me, now 90-10. I'm not a gambling man, but if I was, I would probably put a bet on Trump actually serving custodial time now, getting a custodial sentence. And yeah, because there's so many cases, so many charges, it's all going against him. Things aren't going well at all. He'll make loads of money out of it, I'm sure, and he'll probably write a book from jail called, I don't know, Mein Kampf or something. But and his supporters will still believe anything that he tells them to believe, even though if yesterday he told them that up was down, left was right, black was white, then he U-turned on all those positions the next day. They'll still believe him because there's something that Trump supporters and Brexit supporters have in common, which is just the most ridiculous amounts of cognitive dissonance, which is when you can hold two opposing ideas in your head at the same time. You know, but there you go. Francis Winrow, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Thank you. That's all good. Hey, before I forget, I should remind you this later, but I'm going to be finishing just after 10 o'clock today. I want you all to go and tune in to LBC because our friend Carol Vorderman, who may have been in the chat on Friday night for the Labour Social, if anyone noticed. I don't know if anyone saw Carol, who was talking about mathematics. She's going to be presenting LBC from 10 o'clock this morning until 1 o'clock. She's filling in for James O'Brien. So please listen to Carol. We might have some people calling in and talking about the stuff that we want to talk about. For a change. Not that James O'Brien doesn't talk about the things that we want to talk about, but mainstream media in general in this country has a slight right-wing bias, which is news to Nadine Dorries, who yesterday went on the record to say that she went to Google and said, why whenever I type my name into Google, do nasty things turn up? And they showed her and said, well, I'll type it in here and look, no nasty things turned up. And then she went home and then she typed it in again and nasty things turned up because cookies. And she said, oh, they've been turning the dial. They've been turning she thinks there's a big dial in Silicon Valley, and they turn it so that people write mean things about a Scouser who was over promoted way beyond their abilities in this country, and it was quite a nasty piece of work. And don't forget, she was the Secretary of State for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. Bless her little cotton idiotic socks. Anyway, so main story today, Peter Bone. Oh my God, what a rotter. Who would have thought that someone, a Brexiteer who looks so much like Mr. Burns, would be such a bad guy? Each day I wake up and I have a look at the news and I kind of think, well, what I'm going to talk about in Morning Brew, what do I want to do a video about for Moment of Truth? And I think I'm going to do my Moment of Truth video today is like, why are Brexiters all such wrong-uns? Like, every single one of them is horrible. They're just horrible, horrible, horrible people. I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head who got people to vote for Brexit. Not just like anyone who voted for Brexit, but like people who actually got on a platform and said, you should vote for Brexit. They're all absolutely abhorrent people. Like, why would you want them on your side? And this is why Lexiteers just blow my mind. They're just like, why would you want to stand with every racist and every Nazi in the country on this issue? Do you think that you're right if they're on your side? You know, look around sometimes. Check who's on your team. I mean, look, the people in this chat are just lovely. You know, I get the impression that we're the good guys here. We're not we're not calling for people to be discriminated against. We're not calling for people to have their benefits taken away. We're saying no, we should give more. We should give more to people. We should help people. And so that makes me feel like I'm on the right side. Do you know what I mean? Like, look at the history. It always progresses towards being more liberal, being more caring, you know, people looking out for each other more, being less bloodthirsty. And, you know, I like the little community that we've built here so far, and hopefully it'll grow over the next few months leading up to the general election. But blimey, the other side, they're just, oh my God. And also, I want to point out something as well. Predatory behaviour, very good. Anglo-Norse there, not Angelo-Norse. Thank you very much for the super chat. One of the things that like blows my mind about not just the Tory behaviour, because I mean it's kind of a given, isn't it, that they're just horrible. I should explain to anyone who's not read the news this morning that there's an article on the BBC website about the assistant to the aide to Peter Bone, who says that the abuse by this MP left him broken. well, them broken, and we don't know if it's male, if they're male or female. I think they're male. They talked about it being a brutal experience. Talking about Peter Bone, Peter's behaviour was erratic. His temper was often explosive, like a pendulum. He would go from one type of personality to another. It was quite hard to predict and left me feeling kind of under siege. They call it siege mentality in terms of the relentless shouting, the screaming, the hitting, the hitting. My mind and body were just constantly on edge. That had a big impact on my life at the time, and unfortunately continued to do so for many years afterwards. Now, it's not just that this happened, that's absolutely shocking. But as I say in the title, not surprising. Brexiter, Tory, looks like Mr. Burns. What is I find shocking is that it took so long for anything to be done about this. This is 10 years. 10 years. This was in 2017, so 6 years ago, the individual made a complaint to the Conservative Party, which was ignored, which was absolutely ignored. And it was only because the independent grievance and what is it called? It's Independence Complaints and Grievance Scheme, the ICGS, which was formed in 2018 because of all these Tory majority. I know some other MPs, some other parties have done horrible things, but it is like 99% of them are Tories. So this brought in as an independent mechanism for investigating MPs. But even so, I mean, it's taken a long time. A staff member from the ICGS got in touch with this person and asking. They got in touch with the IGCS, and then they got in touch with the Tory Party and said, you need to do this investigation into Peter Bone, and that was only last year, in 2022, so March 2022. That's how long it took. So the abuse took place 10 years ago. Nothing was done at the time. The official complaint was made in 2017. That was 6 years ago. And nothing was done. And it was only till last year. And it's taken till this long. Now, I just want to ask you something. I don't know where you've worked in the past or where you work now. But could you imagine you're at work and you're the boss, right? And there's a whole Stanford experiment thing going on. So you're the boss and you turn into a nightmare. And you hit one of your members of staff. You physically assault one of your members of staff, one of the people who's under you, right? Do you think for 1 second you will get suspended like that, pending an investigation? Do you think? Yeah. Because it's one rule for us, isn't it? And one rule for them. I mean, yes, you should be suspended on the spot if you are accused of doing something as heinous as causing grievous bodily harm to another human being who is literally under you in your work. But these MPs, they just off above the law. They just get away with it. And he won't go to jail for this. He should do. He absolutely should do a custodial sentence for this. You can go to jail for a lot less. You can go to jail for stealing some milk from the corner shop these days. I mean, it really is the point where we're getting, the prisons are overflowing because the Tories can't manage anything. I say piss up in a brewery. They managed a lot of piss ups during COVID, didn't they? One Angry Pagan, thank you very much. The Tories like to say themselves they are born to rule, yet their behaviour proves otherwise. Also, Carol Vorderman is a legend. Enough said. She's really going hard against the Tories and their corruption. Absolute tons of corruption. And so to bring it full circle to what I started talking about at the beginning, it's really nice to see justice, the wheels of justice, although they move slow, happening in America with Jenna Ellis and with Sidney Powell and Cheeseborough. I always forget his first name, Jeffrey Cheeseborough or something. He's got a weird name, Cheeseborough. They are all hopefully, and Mark Meadows. Hopefully, they are that this is the end of Trump. Thank God, he is top of my list of faces I never want to see again. We've got Trump, we've got Suella Braverman, we've got Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage, Jacob Rees-Mogg. I could die a happy man if I never saw his ugly, disgusting, misfigured face ever again. And by misfigured, I don't mean like, I don't mean like deformed. I don't mean like, he's been in an accident or something like that. I mean like he just looks vile. He just looks like a vile human being. And it's because, and I do believe this to a certain extent, if you are a nice person, it doesn't matter how you look, your niceness will shine through. If you are a horrible, horrible person, like Suella Braverman, I don't know, your chin disappears. What the hell? Oh my god. Anyway, so yes. So it's nice to see the wheels of justice turn in America, but I don't feel like they're turning here. I feel like the Met Police, which was run by Cressida Dick all through the COVID Partygate scandal. Cressida Dick, who was privately educated, and she's looking out for the other people who are privately educated. The head of Ofcom is privately educated. The head of Ofsted is privately educated. So all these watchdogs, the police, the people that are supposed to be looking after us, look out for their old school friends. I know Peter Bone didn't go to private school, but this isn't the point. The point is that a lot of people in public life look out for each other because they're old school chums instead of looking out for you or looking out for me or looking out for, I don't know, justice. Hey, let's be on the side of justice, fairness, equality, not just looking at what's happened in the by-election last week and going, oh, do you know what we need to do? We need to take that cap off bankers' bonuses. There you go. I found a Brexit dividend for you, which you can remind any of your neighbours who voted for Brexit who aren't doing so well right now. Maybe you might want to go around, have a cup of tea and say, so what do you think about this Brexit benefit? And they're like, what Brexit benefit? Well, you know, the billionaire bankers in London have now had the caps on their salaries taken away. We couldn't have done that when we were in the EU. They just let silence fall. Anyway, consign greased smog into a workhouse. That would be great. A greased smog. Uncle Heavy, I think former president, I won't use his name, has never been told no in his life until recently. That's very true, Uncle Heavy. Trump has always reminded me of the little kid from an episode, the old episode of The Twilight Zone called Anthony. He's played by Bill Mummy, who went on to be in Lost in Space as Will Robinson in the original Lost in Space, not the remake. And he was also in Babylon 5. Yeah, fun facts. Anyway, yeah, Anthony in this episode of The Twilight Zone is a child with, well, they describe him as a monster, and then they say, oh, he's just a little boy, but he has powers, and he can just kill people by thinking about it. He can turn someone into a Jack in the Box just by thinking about it. So everyone has to be really nice. Everyone has to be really, really nice to Anthony, or he might do things to them. And like every time he does something horrible, they'll go, "That was a good thing you did, Anthony. That was a good thing you." It's a really great episode of The Twilight Zone. I really recommend it. But yeah, that's how I feel about Trump. Yeah. I swear Mog was in the Beano. Yeah, Walter the Softie. What gets me about the banker's bonus is to say it had no effect. If it was true, why are they getting rid of it? It didn't have an effect, did it? It did have an effect, didn't it? Because, you know, the bankers weren't getting it. You know, they couldn't afford the size of yacht that they needed. You know, the top of the range Audi with their personalised number plate. It just wasn't personalised enough. Lord Snooty from the Beano. Yeah, Lord Snooty as well. He's like a mix between Walter the Softie and Lord Snooty. Don Do That says, I can't think of a Tory MP I'd let child mind, so why would I let them shape my country if my children will inherit? Honestly, Don, that is such a great point, and it's one that I've made before as well about Trump. Like, would you let him child mind? Boris Johnson, would you let him child mind? No, because it's absolutely irresponsible. Well, why the hell would you have him running the country then? What you wouldn't leave him responsible with your child, but you would leave him responsible with an entire nation during a pandemic. So justice. That's what I want to see. And I don't know. So something gives me hope. The fact that Keir Starmer was director of public prosecutions. That's how he got his knighthood. He brought down a lot of criminal gangs. He knows what he's doing when it comes to the law. And don't forget, Keir Starmer went around the world fighting against death penalty, the death sentences for people. He got over 100 people off their he got their sentences commuted, or at least they weren't put to death. Amazing, just absolutely amazing stuff that he did. And he also helped represent the McDonald's 2 in the McLibel case when protesters for, I think, Greenpeace were giving out flyers saying that McDonald's was cutting down the Amazon rainforest, and they took them to court and said no, we weren't, and then it was proved that they were actually cutting down the Amazon rainforest for their beef. Their horrible, horrible beef. What they call hamburgers. Was used to confuse the hell out of me when I was a kid. They didn't have ham in. And then I went to Arby's in America once, and they do hamburgers. It's burgers with like slices of ham in, and it's the most disgusting thing I've ever put in my mouth. And I've been quite drunk. Serb says it says a lot for America when you look at their candidates, given their population. Well, I mean, they have the same issue that we have in the UK, is that the rich and powerful go hand in hand. As in, if you're rich, you're powerful. If you're powerful, you're rich. It's just and generally a lot of people who are rich really shouldn't be, really shouldn't be. They're not the best, are they? And the worst ones are the nepo babies. They're the children of the rich, the disgusting people like Trump, like Elon Musk, who didn't have to do anything because their parents would just bankroll them for millions if necessary. And then they go around going, I'm a self-made man. I'm like, no, you're not a self-made. You're not a self-made man. Yeah, you're really, really not. You're about as self-made as Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster. Sorry. Frankenstein was a scientist, not the monster. Anyway, in other news today, I just learned that the son of Tony Hawk and the daughter of Courtney Love and Kurt Cobain got married yesterday, which is nice. And in the most 90s thing ever, the officiant at the ceremony was Michael Stipe from REM. Hey, 90s kids, how you doing? Sorry, I just throw that in there. No, but not even half when it comes down to it. When the Americans put cheese in the can, they've said, oh my God, Americans can't do cheese. There's a few things that Americans can't do. They can't pronounce Van Gogh. They can't pronounce Buddha. They don't have a clue how to make cheese. And they can't make chocolate. American chocolate tastes of vomit. It really does. There's an ingredient in there that's also in vomit. Like, why? Why? I don't understand. Apparently it was something to do with preservatives in the 1930s or something. I don't know. But then that's the taste of chocolate that Americans are grown up with. So they get some nice Swiss chocolates or Belgian chocolates and are like, oh, this is disgusting. Oh my God. They're just. The other thing Americans can't do is have a Kinder Surprise egg because of a 1930s law saying that you can't put a toy in a candy. They can't make tea or chocolate. It's disgusting. Yes, tea as well. I mean, I don't want to go too hard on America about their problem with tea because it's a worldwide phenomenon. Lipton yellow label tea is the most disgusting, toxic creation on the planet because it puts people off tea. It makes people have a cup of tea and it's this weak, insipid crap, and they put milk in it because, that's what you do with tea in this country, and they drink it and they go, oh God, this is horrible. It's like dishwater, and it puts them off tea ever again. If I was PG, if I was Yorkshire tea, if I was Tetley, I would sue Lipton for basically putting people off drinking what we call English breakfast tea. I know it's not made in England, but that's what it's called. It's a very, very strong strain of black tea that you don't normally get in countries that don't put milk in the tea. And the reason why we put the milk in the tea is because obviously it's too tart without the milk. Some people have without milk, but that's quite unusual. It's a coffee conspiracy. Well, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe Lipton is owned by a big coffee company that doesn't want people drinking tea. Americans also don't have kettles. This is something I discovered living in Panama because it's just basically an American colony. They don't have kettles. They just don't have them. It's like, how do you boil water? And they go, well, we put it on a pan on the stove, or we put it in the microwave. They boil water in the microwave, which seems wrong to me. Like making a cup of tea in the microwave. No, just feels wrong. Cadbury's is American now. It says don't do that. Yes, unfortunately. Lipton iced tea is fine, says Nick and Diff. Yes, I will grant you that. But it was the only thing I could drink over there. Their cheese is the same plastic stuff, but in different canisters, revolting. But going back to the whole thing about Kinder eggs, blue cheese is illegal in America. So I think Stilton is illegal in America. Work that one out, because all cheese has to be pasteurized. We sort of make the Americans like to say, well, with our food standards, and oh my God, watch Last Week Tonight with John Oliver about food standards from last week. It was just, that was an eye opener. Their food standards are pretty low because, generally speaking, they have this rule of like, if it hasn't killed anyone, it's all right. So they wait. They have a new product that's launched, and then they wait till someone dies. And when someone dies, they say, okay, we probably should take that product off the shelf. The EU goes the other way, which it says you have to prove this isn't going to kill anyone before you sell it in supermarkets across the continent, which is the best way to do it. I mean, come on. But at the same time, the EU allows all kinds of crazy stuff like bull's balls in Spain, sheep's brains in France, sheep lung in haggis in Scotland. So haggis is illegal in America as well. Like Kinder eggs, blue cheese, haggis, all illegal in America. Anyway, and so is trying to mount an insurrection against the government of the United States and trying to hang the vice president. Apparently that's all out as well. What can you do? One Angry Pagan says, UK Southwest does the best cheese. We have cheddar gorge, which is a gorge entirely made of cheddar. Delicious. That's from One Angry Pagan. This is making me want to have some cheese. It's too early in the morning for cheese. Thank you very much, One Angry Pagan, for the £2 super chat. Johnny Copperhead straight in there with a £10 super chat. Thank you very much, Johnny. The vomit taste was originally added in chocolate in World War One, US soldiers' rations to stop them eating it all in one go, apparently. Well, there you go, Johnny Copperhead. I often say, when I'm confronted with American chocolate, I say, this tastes like war chocolate. That's what I call it, because it tastes like ration chocolate. Like, it's just about to come over the top, and you're like, oh, you know what? I'll just eat it now, because offal is awful. Offal loves it. They have good rat hair burgers, though. Yeah. What's that Italian cheese that has the maggots? Well, there's a coffee that you can get, which is a Filipino coffee, and it's been eaten by the civet cat. They have a little rodent-like animal over there. It's not a cat. I think it's a rodent. It's called the civet cat, and they eat these the coffee beans, and then they kind of ferment or something in the civet cat's stomach, and then it poops them out. And they go around finding the civet cat's poop, and then they grind it up and make coffee out of the beans that have been part digested, whatever, through civet cat. First of all, the first person to do that, what were they thinking? And secondly, I've had some. I've tried it, and it wasn't the worst thing I've had in the Philippines. That would definitely 100% have to be the balut, which is. You might have just had your breakfast. You might not want to hear this. Cover your ears. Trigger warning. It's fertilized duck egg. So it's like eating an egg, a hard-boiled egg that's kind of maybe got like it's fertilized. Can I just say that? That's all I'm gonna say for now. It's just horrible. I'm sure if you typed in balut, BALUT into YouTube, you can see someone eating it. It's just horrific. Most of the banned cheeses are illegal in the US due to the use of unpasteurized milk or raw milk in their production. The FDA deems these milk a public health concern, says Ian. Yeah, I know. But not all of, the FDA, so that's the Food and Drug Administration, isn't it, in America? It's like, everyone can be addicted to Oxycontin. That's fine. That's okay. We don't mind about that. But no Stilton, because, people might die. Balut is mental, says Marito. How hungry would you have to have been to eat that? It's a common like street food. So I was on the island of Mindanao, which is a fascinating place. It's where there's a place called General Santos there, which is where Manny Pacquiao was born, and his mum still lives there. And I went to Manny Pacquiao's. Well, I went outside his old house when I was there. 10 a.m. Graham. Oh God! All right, Nick and Diff. They've got to do the news. Just give me a moment. No, before I go, I just want to tell you about Mindanao. So in Mindanao, Philippines was invaded by the Spanish back in the day. So it was a Catholic country, but the the closer it sort of gets to Brunei and Malaysia, which are Muslim countries, the more Muslim it becomes. So you've got the Sulu Islands, which are Muslim, and then you've got this big island of Mindanao, which is in the south of the Philippines. And they have a group that is a terrorist group. I mean, I shouldn't laugh because it is a terrorist group and it's done some really horrible things. It's like kidnapped people on buses and stuff like that. But it's called the Mindanao Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF for short. I don't know. How could anyone take them seriously? Oh my God. We are from MILF. We've come to terrorize you. Stop laughing. Anyway, so there you go. True story. Unpasteurized soy sauce is illegal in America. This means you can't live on a traditional Buddhist diet as you can get no vitamin B12. Yes, Ben. And if you're Scottish, you can't live on a traditional Scottish diet of haggis. Not even on Burns night because it's got sheep lung in, and that's banned as well. My man Toad T33 says I'm a proud MILF supporter. I always thought it'd be funny if the Filipino government, if they decided to try and take out they had a special elite group of like mercenaries, like a ragtag group like the Expendables or the Dirty Dozen or something, and they could be taking out the MILF, and they could be called Cougar Force. And it'd be like Cougars versus MILFs. Sorry, I'm very childish in my humour. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Right, so yeah, Peterbone, Rongan. There's going to be an election now. There's going to be a vote today in Parliament on Peterbone to decide whether he should face a recall petition. He's been kicked out by the Tory party, finally, so he's an independent MP now, so they've lost another MP. I think the recall petition is only 10%. His constituency is Wellingborough, so hopefully there will be a by-election there in January. That's what Phil reckons. So another Tory seat gone, and also there's the horrible bloke in Blackpool South who's on his way out, so he might also be causing a by-election in January as well. So 2 more seats up for grabs for the Tories, which is all brilliant. Talking of brilliant, thank you very much, Nigel. Nigel in Australia. That's a good name for an Australian, isn't it? Nigel. 20 Australian dollars. Thank you so much. So there'll be a vote today on Peterbone, so hopefully that will all go through. And also at 12 o'clock, we have PMQs with Graham Hughes. I'm going to be there at 12 o'clock today doing my usual commentary, losing my mind at PMQs. But it's 4 minutes past 10 now, so hopefully I'll see you at 12 and go over to LBC. Cavil's on. She's awesome. And until next time, thanks for the super chats. Thanks for all the chat. Thanks to everyone for joining us this morning. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.